That day, afternoon in a famous shopping center in Beijing, neon lights began to light up, signaling the transition from the bustle of day to a night full of life. The atmosphere is crowded, young people in and out of the store, some families walking casually carrying shopping bags, and couples seem to enjoy the time together. In the midst of the hustle and bustle, there were a pair of figures who were no less stealing attention. Zhang Linghe and Zhao Jinmai had just finished a long shoot since morning. Their bodies were tired, but the faces of both of them still shone with the aura of a star. They didn't really expect that, when they decided to walk together to a public place, there would be many eyes watching, even mobile phone cameras secretly capturing their steps. Initially, they just wanted to breathe free air after being confined on the set. Jinmai wore a white oversized sweater with simple jeans, her hair tied low, very relaxed, barely recognizable as a rising actress. While Lingi, with a black hoodie and a mask covering part of his face, looked like an ordinary man who was accompanying his friend on a walk. However, the auras of the two were too difficult to hide. Lingi's towering height, athletic posture, and ever-confident gaze made him easily recognizable even at a glance. So did Jinmai. His gentle smile while speaking made people passing by spontaneously turn their heads twice. Some fans are starting to wake up. There was a faint whisper heard from the crowd. That Zhang Linghe, right? Isn't that Zhao Jinmai? The two of them together? At first only a little, then more and more heads turned. The phones were picked up. Camera flashes began to appear. Jinmai, who was initially chuckling while joking with Lingi, suddenly closed his mouth, looked down, feeling a little awkward. He is not used to such sudden situations. Lingi, noticing the change in Jinmai's expression, immediately responded quickly. He leaned over a little, approached Jinmai, then whispered in a low voice that only the girl could hear. "Take it easy, I'm here. Let's face it together." Those simple words made Jinmai a little relieved. There was sincerity in his tone, not just soothing, but like a small unspoken promise. Lingi then stood up straight, his eyes sweeping over the crowd of fans that had begun to approach. It doesn't show panic. Instead, he smiled faintly behind his mask, then raised his hand to say hello. "Thank you for supporting us," he said politely, in a friendly tone. The fans were getting closer, but Lingi kept his distance. He stretched his arms slightly forward, as if making a small invisible barricade, protecting Jinmai from being pushed too hard. The gesture was barely noticed by many people, but for Jinmai, it was so pronounced. He could see how Lingi was always thinking of the comfort of those around him, including himself. "Lingi GE, can you take a picture for me?" shouted a female fan from the crowd. Lingi only nodded politely. "Yes, but don't push it, please. We all want to be safe." Meanwhile, Jinmai tried to calm himself down. He waved his little hand towards the fans, his thin smile reappearing even though there was still a sense of awkwardness. Suddenly, a female fan approached while holding a mobile phone, wanting a selfie with Jinmai. The girl was excited, even forming a pose of love's hand towards the camera while approaching the young actress. Jinmai, with his friendly nature, automatically replied by forming love's hand as well, chuckling because the sudden atmosphere was so cheerful. Other fans also cheered, the atmosphere getting more and more crowded. However, on the other hand, Lingi's eyes briefly glanced in the direction of that interaction. He didn't say anything, just took a short breath and smiled again at the fans. Still, there was a slight change in his gaze, a mixture of protective and maybe a little jealous. But it's just a flash. It goes away very quickly. As for Jinmai, he didn't realize it. But for Lingi, every little moment like that always touched his heart. He not only cares as a co-worker, but more than that, there's something he can't hide, even from himself. As the crowd began to thin out, Lingi again approached Jinmai. "You okay?" asked slowly. Jinmai nodded. "I'm good. Just a little nervous." Lingi smiled, his eyes full of sincerity. "You don't have to pretend in front of me. If you're tired or uncomfortable, just say so. I'll take care of the rest." Jinmai was silent for a moment. his heart warmed by the words. There was a strange but pleasant sense of security, which he always got every time he was with Zhang Linghe. Fans may have only glimpsed a glimpse, but behind that crowd, there was a small moment that meant a lot to both of them. That day was just the beginning. Unexpected meetings with fans in public places, tinged with smiles, cheers, even a hint of jealousy are implied. But without them realizing it, precisely from that simple moment, a new chapter in their relationship is born. One in which comfort and attitude as they are begin to bind hearts that never planned to fall. The crowd is getting louder. Fans began to call their names with enthusiasm, the sound of screams mixed with camera flashes. Some people even try to get closer, wanting to touch their hands. The situation could easily turn chaotic, yet Zhang Linghe still looked calm. He took a half step forward, his body leaning slightly forward, as if it were a living fortress for Zhao Jinmai who stood by his side. His hands moved casually, giving a subtle gesture to fans to keep their distance. "Take it easy, don't push," he said in a clear but still friendly voice. His non-explosive attitude eased the atmosphere a little. Fans who had been excited began to feel calm. They realized that Lingi was not driving away, but keeping everyone safe. Jinmai looked at the man from the side, slightly surprised. Although tired, he saw how Lingi never lost his temper. For Jinmai, it was amazing. "You always know how to behave," he muttered softly. Lingi turned his head for a moment, his eyes glistening softly. "It's a small thing. The important thing is that you are comfortable." The sentence is simple, but for Jinmai it feels deep. He could only nod, hiding a faint smile that involuntarily appeared on his face. Visible sincerity. After a few minutes of serving the fans, Lingi began to invite Jinmai to shift to a quieter area. But some fans still follow him. They ask for autographs. Some also want selfies. Lingi didn't mind, but he put a condition. One by one, yes. Do not let Jinmai feel squeezed. The fans obeyed. And sure enough, the atmosphere became more organized. Jinmai, who was nervous at first, now felt more relaxed. He smiled sincerely, even joked with a little fan who brought dolls of their drama characters. "Wow, did you bring this?" he said cheerfully. "This doll looks more like Lingi than she herself, huh?" The little fans laughed, while Lingi raised an eyebrow pretending to protest. "Hey, when I lost, did I look like a doll?" The crowd broke out with laughter. It was a warm moment, as if they were not stars and fans, but close friends who were sharing happiness. Behind the smile, however, behind the laughter and smile, Lingi paid attention to every detail. He knows Jinmai smiles easily, but also gets tired easily. He noticed that his eyes began to dim, his shoulders slightly lowered. Quickly, he bowed towards the fans who were still waiting. "Thank you for coming, but I think Jinmai needs to rest. Please understand, yes." Fans, although disappointed, understood. They waved their hands while shouting, "Take care of your health, Jinmai." Jinmai covered his mouth with his hands, his eyes glazed. He did not expect Lingi was so sensitive to his condition. He never asked for protection, but the man always knew when to act. When all subsides, they finally managed to get out of the crowd and walk towards a small park near the shopping center. The night air is colder. Jinmai sighed in relief, while Lingi sat on a park bench. "You okay?" he asked. Jinmai nodded. "I'm good, thanks to you." Lingi turned his head, slightly smiling. "I'm just doing the right thing. You don't have to thank me. But I feel like you always care more than anyone else," Jinmai replied softly. Quiet for a moment. Their eyes met, and for a split second, the world seemed to stop spinning. Unconscious comfort over the next few days. It became a topic of discussion among the netizens. Videos of their interactions with fans went viral on social media. People praised Zhang Linghe's calm demeanor and Zhao Jinmai's gentleness. However, for both, the moment was more than a hot topic. It was a turning point. Jinmai began to realize that he always felt safe when Lingi was by his side. It is not necessary to pretend to be strong. It is not necessary to always have a perfect smile. And for Lingi, it dawned on him that Jinmai's presence taught him something. The courage to show his most sincere side. Questions in the heart. One night after filming, Jinmai sat in the waiting room scrolling through his phone. He read the comments of the fans. The chemistry is real. Lingi Oppa looks very fond of Jinmai. It's not acting, it's real. Jinmai smiled faintly. Then unconsciously, he asked in his heart, is it true that this is just working chemistry? Or is there something more? A taste that infiltrates Lingi didn't escape that feeling either. He often recalled how Jinmai looked at him in the crowd, how the girl entrusted her comfort to him. There was a warmth he couldn't ignore. For a man accustomed to restraint, this is a test. He knew his world was full of them. But he also knows that feelings are not something that can always be hidden. Proximity test. A few weeks later, they again met fans at a public event. The crowd was again crowded, and this time more orderly as the staff had anticipated. But still, the main spotlight was on the way Lingi treated Jinmai. He always walked half a step ahead, always checked if the girl was comfortable, and always made room for Jinmai to interact with fans without worry. Fans noticed it. He's really considerate, wrote one on social media. Not just a co-worker, but like someone who wants to protect more than that. That night, after the show was over, they both sat in the car. The streets are deserted, only city lights accompany. Jinmai stared out the window, then whispered, I feel different. Every time with you, I am not afraid of the crowd, not afraid of the spotlight. Lingi turned his head, his voice low but steady. Because you are not alone. As long as I'm around, you can be yourself. Jinmai fell silent, then looked at the man. There were thousands of words he wanted to say, but in the end only one sentence came out. Thank you, Lingi. And the smile that appeared on the faces of both that evening was not a smile for the fans, not for the cameras, but the most sincere smile. The smile of two hearts who secretly began to find each other a home.